Welcome to Elections 101 in 5, your daily program that simplifies the electoral process as well as Nigeria's electoral law. As usual, we focus on the how and not who to vote on this show. My name is Samson Itodo. Let's get started with the business of the day. Today, we try to answer the question, what is the new definition of overvoting in our current electoral act? As usual, we hit the streets to get some answers. Listen to the responses.
If the number of voters is more than the acquired votes, I presume and I assume that polling unit should be cancelled.
INEC can determine why two can be an observer in the elections. Since they have it in their beavers, in their system, in their data, things have changed. They can sit in the office and see who they were voting and call the electoral officer on the polling unit to order.
Like some people will vote here, maybe go to another polling booth, clean their fingerprints, vote another one there.
When there are more of people who voted, then less of people who registered for the election.
Interesting responses. You must be familiar with the saying, one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, one youth, one vote, or one person with disability, one vote. It is not a mere saying. It is a principle that captures the whole concept of equal representation for all citizens. For elections to be credible, voters must vote once for their preferred candidate. It is illegal to vote more than once in an election. Overvoting used to be cases where number of votes cast in a polling unit exceed the number of registered voters. And that's what overvoting was previously in our electoral act, in the 2010 Electoral Act. But with the introduction of electronic accreditation using the BVAS, overvoting can no longer be determined by the number of registered voters, but by accredited voters. In any case, if the total number of votes cast exceed the total number of accredited voters, because accredited voters are voters who have showed up on election day to vote. Also, in the past, accreditation and voting took place at separate times of the day. So you get accredited, you wait, and then you vote later. Now, that has changed totally in our electoral process. So now, you accredit and you vote at the same time. But here is what the law says with respect to overvoting. And this is the new definition of overvoting in the current Electoral Act. The Act says that overvoting occurs where the number of votes cast at an election in a polling unit exceeds the total number of accredited voters in that polling unit. You just know that there has been some foul play somewhere. Not like the previous definition where overvoting occurs when the number of votes cast exceed the number of registered voters. Now, you will ask, what happens if overvoting occurs in a polling unit? The law says the presiding officer will be required to cancel the result of the polling unit where overvoting occurs. The law says that the election shall be inconclusive until another election is conducted in the affected polling unit. And the reason why INEC will conduct elections in those affected polling units is simply because the result of those polling units will substantially affect the final results. In cases where the result of those affected polling units, now these affected polling units in this case are polling units where overvoting occurred, an election was cancelled. If the results from those polling units will not affect the final result, then INEC will not go back and conduct the elections in those affected polling units. And so this is the new definition of overvoted in the current Electoral Act. This is why accreditation by BVAS is crucial and it's important for successful and credible elections. This is one key information that you require to vote as well as monitor elections in February and March next year. You can watch previous episode of Election 101 in 5 on our YouTube channel, Yaga Africa TV. Feel free to contact us with your questions and comments via the mediums displayed on your screen. Thank you for watching. Remember, your vote can make a difference. Use it wisely. My name is Samson Sodo. See you tomorrow.